Say good morning to everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to join our webinar today. I'd especially like to thank our friends at BioMADE for sharing information about their organization and all the good work that they're doing. We'll hear more about that in a second, and I'll introduce them in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to just go through a few housekeeping items. Laura, if you could just go to the next slide, please. Okay. Well, first, if there's any technical difficulties, I know people are still joining, but if hopefully you could all hear me. If not, if there's any technical issues, please just put it in the chat. I'll try to correct them. The presentation itself will probably last about 40 to 50 minutes, and we're going to hold the questions until the end. So there's a Q&A function, a little button down at the bottom of your screen. And so if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just please put them in the Q&A. I'll be fielding those and monitoring them, and then at the end, we'll join back as the panelist group and answer those questions. And if you have any additional questions after the webinar is over, please feel free to reach out either directly to me. You can see the email there, pentap@psu.edu, or you can reach out directly to BioMADE at, you can see their email there, hello@biomade.org. Also, if you haven't noticed already, this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to upload this to our Pentap website in a few days, and so you'll receive a follow-up email notifying you when it's available. So it's there for your reference, and it'll be available. Next slide. And welcome to all of those who are just joining now. So let me just say first, who am I? What is Pentap, and why are we hosting this webinar? My name is Krista Schneider, and I am a technical advisor for Pentap, representing Northeast PA. And Pentap is the Pennsylvania Technical Assistance Program at Penn State. It's a statewide grant-funded organization that's housed within the Office of Commercialization and Entrepreneurship at University Park. And our mission is to provide Pennsylvania businesses with technical assistance and access to Penn State faculty and students. And my colleagues and I, as you can see there on the screen, we are embedded in the regions that we serve in order to develop local relationships, share awareness and knowledge of the resources of Penn State, and also just to better understand the community and local business needs in our region. Yeah, and so why do we do this? Because our goal is to help businesses become more sustainable, and whether that's through energy efficiency improvements that result in greenhouse gas reductions, or through product and process improvements through innovation. And that's why we wanted to host this webinar, because through our work in the regions, we work with many startup companies that are developing new biomaterials, as well as existing manufacturers that are interested in integrating biomaterials into their products and their supply chains. And BioMADE is an organization whose mission is to enable domestic bioindustrial manufacturing at all scales. And so that's why we're hosting this webinar to spread the word. And so if you could go to the next, there you go. So without any further delay, I'm going to yield my time to BioMADE folks so that they can tell you all about it. I'll start by introducing David. David Nathan is a senior technology program manager at BioMADE, and his degree is in chemical engineering from the University of Michigan. And he has 30 years of experience in research and development, process development, scaling up and commercializing products in the food and beverage sector, most recently with Land O'Lakes. Louise Petrozella is the senior project manager for education and workforce development, and she has more than 20 years of experience in educational programming, and she currently serves as a mentor for the National Science Foundation's Mentor Links program, which is designed to help colleges develop or strengthen technician training programs in STEM fields. And then last but not least, Laura Vitko is the director of strategic partnerships, and she helps the organization build new alliances and access opportunities across the network. And she has a master's degree in education, and her professional experience includes supporting a variety of different academic institutions, with research, communications, development, and membership. And so I'm going to now turn it over to David to get started, and I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krista, and I hope everyone can hear me well. And I'm thrilled to be speaking with you and introducing BioMADE to you today. She said most of my career has been in the food industry, most recently in Minnesota at Land O'Lakes, but it started very early on in the very Pennsylvania-centric world of chocolate. So thrilled to be back talking to you all today, and it's a familiar part of the world. So BioMADE is a manufacturing and innovation institute. We're one of, I actually lose track of the number now, 16 or 17, initiated in our case by the Department of Defense, although some are also, say, Department of Energy. We work in partnership with our members. We are a membership organization and work to create a dynamic ecosystem to support bioindustrial technology and advancement across the United States through partnership with government and private funds. There are some limitations, and you can see the list of them here. We do work with a lot of the other MIIs as well. While we are biotechnology, we don't do pharma and we don't do medical. Those are Nimble and BioFab respectively. And so we work closely with them, but there are some definitions in terms of the space we work in. Typically, we work more in consumer or B2B type products than medical. And I think the next slide, please, Laura. So the question is, what can biomanufacturing create? And the answer is almost limitless. My favorite part of being part of BioMADE is, honest to God, I learn something new, if not every day, certainly multiple times a week. So biotechnology is capable of making carbon negative chemicals that can be used for anything from water treatment, concrete, fertilizers, detergents. We're working on PFAS replacements and even remediation, bioplastics, compostable plastics, durable fibers, food packaging, food itself, the ability to grow cement. And then I said not therapeutics, but certainly proteins, probiotics, and other consumer product goods, surfactants, skincare, and all sorts of other things. And there's a smattering on the right side of companies that are members and different things that they've worked with. And you can see it's spanning everything from clothing to heat-resistant films for drone wings, to tires, to cement, to shirts, to plastics. It's an incredible range of products. So next slide, please. And I had mentioned that we are sponsored or created by the DoD. And so there's to talk a little bit about what's the purpose of BioMADE and how does the DoD represent in terms of this commercial products and industrial space. And it may not seem obvious, but a lot of the goals are exactly the same. So creating a more robust and resilient domestic supply chain and establishing U.S. as a self-sufficient and global manufacturing leader. Obviously, that's important from a Department of Defense standpoint, but it's equally important from an economic standpoint. I think we all learned during COVID that any cracks that exist in a supply chain can only get broader. And biomanufacturing is an opportunity to bring things, to reshore things, or to bring things onshore that maybe never could be onshore before, in a way that makes the U.S. More self-sufficient and more secure for consumers and products. Great alignment with what Krista was talking about in terms of creating more environmentally sustainable products with less reliance on petrochemicals, producing materials with physical and chemical properties that couldn't exist before. Frankly, biology can create new things that we could not have until we figured out how to work with microbes to make them. Helps continue to build a diverse and globally competitive STEM workplace. We're not just about the things that we might be able to make that our members are able to create, but how to get there, how to provide the workforce that's going to be required to do this. And also critically supporting America's farmers and enhancing rural development. And that may not be obvious at first, but it includes increasing yields on crops, developing new crops, crops that can make new things, and frankly, valorizing the entire stream that a farmer might make, right? You know, what is now agricultural waste can become a feedstock for future products. We break things into 3 program areas, and I'll continue to talk about technology and innovation. I'll hand it off to Louise, who will talk a little bit more about education and workforce development in our 4S: safety, security, sustainability, and social responsibility. But the key thing I'd like to call out on this slide is we don't see them as truly separate endeavors. And in fact, in our last project call, and we'll talk a little bit later about how we fund projects and the different types of projects we fund, they're very much aligned. 4S is very integrated in technology and innovation and vice versa. And in our last project call, we really asked for integration across all 3 areas and got many, many strong proposals where not only were we developing a technology, but we were supporting the creation of educational programs and or workforce development along with 4S type activities to go with it. Currently, we're funding 76 projects across 67 members. So obviously that means some members do have more than one project. We're working in 20 different states with over $170 million in funded work. And I think I didn't say it, but we've only been around since 2021. So we ourselves are a bit of a startup, and it's been an exciting and a wild ride to get to this point, and we're looking to continue to grow and expand. So I'll touch a little bit about the technology and innovation and what that means to us. We're moving the bioindustrial manufacturing industry forward by funding innovative research, trying to reduce barriers to scale up and commercialization, and de-risking investment in the relevant infrastructure. What does that mean? So our focus area, and as Krista said, we work across all scales and sizes. We'll touch on that a little bit earlier in terms of startup companies all the way to Fortune 500 companies. But our real sweet spot from a technology standpoint is what we call MRLs 4 through 7, and that is typically helping support a company who has a company or an academic institution that has a technology that's proven at a lab scale, and taking it through that pilot, that scale up, that growth in capacity to the point where we've proven out its commercialization readiness. It's kind of ready to go, but we don't take it necessarily all the way to full commercialization. And in broad strokes, that means things like data and design and the end of strain development, scale up, figuring out downstream processing, whether it's an ag product or a fermentation product, testing and evaluation, helping develop a resilient manufacturing ecosystem for it, and starting to understand commercialization readiness, whether that's getting to scale, whether that's techno-economic analysis or supporting work on like life cycle analysis in terms of its environmental value. So next slide, please, and we'll maybe get a little bit deeper into that. We do like the BioMADE as an acronym, excuse me, MADE. And it's another way to think about that transition of 4 through 7 in sort of lay terms. The concept this chart is showing is there's a well-described valley of death. There's public investment money early in a development phase. There's hopefully VC or corporate investment later once you've proven out a business model. It's that overlap between the two that gets really hard when you're looking to scale up from benchtop. Costs go up, risk goes up, capital goes up, time goes up, and it's a weak spot in terms of the U.S. investment in terms of funding. And that's where we hope to step in and help close the gap through partnership in terms of growing capacity, validating technology, and getting set up and ready for commercialization readiness through that valley of death. So next slide, please. Another way to look at it, and one of the benefits of being a member, is we do have a member-created technology roadmap that takes a look at all the different breakdowns across those 4 areas of MRL. And this is a listing of some of the highlights where we're thinking about databases and digital backbone and strain engineering on the left side, as you move across the MRLs, right? Sensors and testing, low-cost cultures, materials, moving into scale-up, DSP and automation, and then even as we get closer to commercialization, right? Understanding your supply chain, understanding how the product's going to get to the customer, cybersecurity. We also look at it across different representative manufacturing sets, right? On the left side, again, from a manufacturing plant that does one thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the way through something that might be deployable in site, which is relevant to the DoD in the sense of a forward operating base. It's also relevant in the sense of, say, mitigation for environmental cleanups or PFAS. It's relevant as well for natural disasters. If you can bring things to a location that needs them without having the full infrastructure, without needing the logistics to get all the things that you might need because you can make it there, there's advantages there as well. And kind of anything in between, whether it's modular plants or plants that make more than one item. And so we look across it as a whole ecosystem, recognizing that each one of these types have different challenges, different economic calculuses, and we try and work with companies to build what makes sense for each particular technology. So next slide, please. I'll go into just a couple selected projects, not to go into detail about them, but to talk about some of the different types of technology projects that we support, just again, as examples. So the first one here on the top left, it was a University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign project, which really was a traditional scale-up of succinic acid for scaling up and growing the scale of the ability to produce this through fermentation. So kind of a straightforward technology project. How can we get through the scale up and demonstrate that it is economically efficient to make this product that way? Other types of projects, we'll describe one. This one is more of a circular economy. It's not so much as a scale up, although that will get to the point at some point, but really about utilizing feedstocks. So waste feedstocks in this case, soybean molasses, wood residue, and replacing things that come out of the petroleum stream, in this case, among others, carbon black, which goes into all sorts of, it's the black in your tires, right? And it's something that comes out of the petroleum stream right now. How can we replace that in a more environmentally friendly way? And in this particular case, right, using things that are already waste streams and going to get turned into carbon, how can we recycle them and capture that and replace things that are less environmentally friendly? On the bottom left, examples of just helping companies get to commercialization readiness. What's the getting them ready with their ecosystem, benchmarking performance, sharing best practices, and product development through member company sharing. And then the last one is a project with Georgia Tech, really looking to stress test end-to-end bioindustrial manufacturing facilities, because at the end of the day, right, this is about businesses being successful. And so how can we help our members in advance of launching get to understanding all the areas that they might need to work through as they move towards a profitable supply chain? And what's exciting about membership in BioMADE is these companies, at least two of them have presented recently, two or maybe not at that point yet, share a lot of the outcomes with the ecosystem. And those are available for members to look at, see, understand, review. You may not be making succinic acid, for example, but understanding the scale-up challenges, what was required to get there, how they had to go about it, right? That kind of learning can support all types of innovation and technology development and scale-up. Some of the others are maybe a little bit more straightforward if you're looking to expand supply chain resiliency. The Georgia Tech work is obviously going to be applicable. And I think at that point, I'll pause on the technology piece and I will hand it over to Louise Petruzella, who will take us on to education and workforce development, which is the perfect complement to technology and innovation.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. And thank you, Krista, for giving us the opportunity to talk with everyone about BioMADE. So tech and innovation, very exciting, always very exciting, but we certainly have to think about how we're going to train and bring up the workforce to carry out production, to continue to go ahead and spearhead research and development through multiple levels within the workforce, from technician training all the way up to PhD and research. So with that in mind, we're definitely poised for significant growth, as it says here, estimating growth in this bioeconomy into the trillions in the next decade or so. We have to start thinking about educating, even beginning at the high school level, even into junior high level. We have certainly funded a couple of projects focused on high school students, but we also work very closely with community colleges, again, through universities, different professional development organizations, nonprofit organizations, to really bring as many people as we can into education and workforce training. The focus areas are listed here with BioMADE. Awareness is a big thing. So we have young people knowing what a doctor is, what a nurse is, what a lawyer is. Not too many kids know what maybe a bioprocessor is at a pilot plant for commodity chemicals, but we here at BioMADE aim to change that. So we fund projects that are really exciting for, again, exposure and awareness about the growing bioeconomy, and in particular about bioindustrial manufacturing. So we endeavor to prepare the future workforce, again, with funding good projects and developing educational and training materials. And then continuing, of course, the growth for folks like incumbent workers, like military personnel transitioning from service back into civilian life. We want to capture, again, as many folks as possible and put them on a path to great careers. Next slide, Laura, please. So as David mentioned, a few projects out of tech and innovation, I wanted to bring to your attention just a few projects we've had here from the outset at BioMADE. First and foremost, we've got University of Texas in partnership with a community college in Austin, Texas, and really giving, again, students exposure to what biomanufacturing is in an industrial understanding. So giving freshmen an opportunity for research incoming into their STEM programming, into biotechnology. This is new, this is exciting, again, giving young folks the opportunity to start early on in understanding what a bioreactor is, what some of these hands-on activities mean to produce, again, commodity chemicals, molecules that are synthesized with biotech in mind. So that's University of Texas. I had the privilege of overseeing the project out of Hawaii, University of Hawaii Hilo, again, partnering with the local community college in California, actually. They did a wonderful job. They held a number of conferences, did train-the-trainer workshops on the Big Island, pulled in hundreds of people in participating with learning some technical techniques in manufacturing, but also focusing on bringing indigenous folks to the table, really being sensitive as far as cultural sensibilities on the island. And again, giving people typically not given these opportunities a chance to participate. A champion from within the local community helped with this project, and very, very successful. Again, developing technical training, but also understanding the local population and the needs there. And then finally, the last highlighted project is out of North Carolina State University. They just closed their project and developed 3 asynchronous online courses, an introduction to biomanufacturing, discussing bioethics as well, and offering this to the larger ecosystem, the community. One of the benefits of joining BioMADE is having these resources available to the members. So being able to take what's been created and use them for your own institution, for companies, whatever you see fit. Finally, David mentioned our third program here, our 4S program. Just a bit of an introduction here again, too. We funded a number of projects under this 4S banner, focusing again on safety, biosecurity, certainly safety in the workplace, and being responsible. I think about our Hawaii project again, really have a good understanding of our social responsibility when we're working with communities. I think that's it for myself. I will turn it over to Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you, David. I'm here to share a little bit more about BioMADE's infrastructure program, which is our newest program that BioMADE announced about a year ago. And so why BioMADE is focusing on this space is because time and time again, we heard from our members that we're trying to scale technologies, out of the lab to produce samples to raise that private capital and those partnerships needed from investors. They could not locate capacity in the US. So they had a technology that was ready to scale to pilot scale or intermediate scale, but they were unable to find a facility in the US to do this work. So what happened is that many members shared stories of having to travel to Asia, to Mexico, to Europe. And because we are focused on US-based bioindustrial manufacturing, there's a multitude of reasons of why it's beneficial for that manufacturing at pilot scale to happen in the US, so that these technologies can be proven out and then further commercialized at commercial scale in facilities in the US, which secures supply chains and also creates good job opportunities in the US. So as BioMADE heard these testimonials from members and started to look more at the issue of what role we could play, we really feel that we are here to serve the broader industry. And the best way that we can do that is getting input from our members and from the community on what the needs are, because we are here to help meet needs and to drive further innovation that benefits the industry. So we are looking at a diversified and a specialized infrastructure network that would be resilient to really build robust manufacturing capabilities across the US. And so we're looking to further accelerate growth by making sure that this network of facilities is diversified and distributed, and it really leverages those regional strengths and partnerships. Those strengths could be access to relevant supply chains, it could be proximity to relevant industries, potential offtake partners, to focus in on those manufacturing needs. Of course, workforce development is a big part of our overall success with this network, and making sure that there are opportunities both for students and the workforce to gain new skills and to integrate into both having opportunities to see how these processes are run at pilot scale, but also to help too with the technology development that happens as you further scale these technologies. So this type of endeavor takes a lot of partnership and resources. And so we are in the stage of securing year-to-year resources through federal appropriations requests, but also looking at opportunities to partner with industry, with state government, with local government, and philanthropic partners to really build out a robust network. And so we've secured through fiscal year 23 and 24, $400 million in federal funds that will really catalyze and kickstart this effort. So where we are today is BioMADE about a month ago announced that we are doing further due diligence on a list of 6 states. So how this process has worked is that we announced a request for organizations, many of our members and other ecosystem partners, to submit statements of interest on what they would envision as the needs for a facility and what would be the strengths of that region. So with the 6 states under review that were announced are California, Hawaii, North Carolina, Iowa, Indiana, and Georgia. And these 6 are in addition to the first site that we announced in Minnesota. So in the state of Minnesota, we are in the process of site selection. Last year, through the Minnesota State Legislative Session in 2023, we worked with the state of Minnesota to secure up to $100 million in state funding that can complement the federal funds. And so we will be looking to further engage our members as we think about opportunities to build a coalition and to get input on capabilities that are needed to serve the broader industry, and also identifying partnership opportunities as we think about the capital infrastructure. This is my favorite section of the presentation to talk about is membership, because I really feel that our ecosystem is stronger when we bring in more diverse partners from across the US, and certainly Pennsylvania is a state that, as we consider all the technology advances that I know many companies in the space of biopharma have flourished in the state, but I think there's a strong opportunity as organizations and companies and universities think about the possibilities with bioindustrial manufacturing, both for workforce and industry and technology innovation. And so our ecosystem has grown to over 280 members. More than half of them are from industry. So we have companies of all sizes, ranging from startups to mid-sized companies and Fortune 500 companies. We have many of the R1 and R2 research universities in our ecosystem. And with our education workforce development efforts, we strongly engage our community colleges and education nonprofits to ensure that we're thinking about those early career pathways and making sure that we're creating accessible opportunities to bring in students and introduce them to these career opportunities. Our members are headquartered in 39 states across the US. So of course, we are looking to fill in the map, but we have really built out a national network of partners that are leaders in this industry and leaders in workforce development. And I think one of the most exciting things about my job that I get to witness every time I meet with our members and partners is how much enthusiasm there is for collaboration and really working together to create the conditions for these technologies to advance and for these job opportunities to make a big impact. And so I will share some of the member benefits. So BioMADE has 10 tiers of membership. So the way that our membership is structured is we really right size that investment to the size of the organization and the type of the organization. So we have membership tiers for startup companies, for research focused universities, for community colleges. And those benefits provide a lot of value. And one of the really big drivers of value for organizations that are already working on projects focused on technology advancement and workforce development is that BioMADE co-invests in the work of our members through those institute projects. So members have the opportunity to be eligible for that BioMADE project funding through either our institute project calls. We also have government agency directed projects, and members are eligible for those opportunities as well. Having access to a network of experts and building relationships is valuable, both for industry and academia, making sure that we are bringing in the right partners. It's a win-win to BioMADE if a partnership happens within the context of a BioMADE project, or if it happens outside of BioMADE. But for us to have a role in making those connections really helps catalyze and accelerate a lot of great things happening in this industry. We also provide professional development opportunities through our subcommittee activities and our governance committees. So we have multiple subcommittees aligned with each program area that are open to the broader membership to join. So this is a great way to build relationships with industry, academia, and government, but it's also a great opportunity for professional development and to learn more about topics like scale up or downstream processing or commercial readiness. Of course, with our workforce development efforts, we're really thinking about how to connect to a pipeline of the current and future workforce, both through our academic partners and also industry partners. And we provide ways for members to connect throughout the year. So one big exciting event we have coming up the end of May is our annual member meeting, and we will be holding this in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's 2 days of programs. We convene about 400 individuals, and it's a really great opportunity to network and build relationships. In addition to that, we host regional events, workshops, a series of webinars, and we also have a way for members to connect year-round through our online member portal, where we have discussion boards and a directory and recordings of past events, as well as our roadmap and core documents. And so if there is an opportunity for anyone on this call today who wants to learn more about membership. I encourage you to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at membership@biomade.org. You can also find additional details about those 10 tiers of membership and benefits on our website at biomade.org. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to learn more about BioMADE today. It's been wonderful to have this opportunity, Krista, to provide this information through PenTap. And I will stop sharing my screen and pass it back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation, a lot of good information. I'm checking the Q&A here as the questions come in. I guess I'll wait as they come in. But there was a couple of questions I think that I've heard expressed, through working with, different manufacturers and different, faculty and so forth. And I thought, let me just ask those because I think they'll probably, be similar to some that, other participants might have. So one is, so you have say, just maybe walk through an example, like you have say an industry that's looking to, maybe they have an existing product line and they're looking to increase the biomaterial in that product or convert it entirely to a bio-based material. But they don't have, say, maybe the R&D capacity, or maybe they have the R&D capacity to do like a lab scale, but not to take it much further than that. How, if they were a member, how would that work within BioMADE?
Yeah, I can take that one. As Laura was alluding to, we have a couple different funding mechanisms. So we have what we call project calls, and we run, at this point, it's been at least 2 a year. Those typically have some theme affiliated with what our broad membership feels our needs in the spaces in biotechnology, usually driven by our roadmap, but also driven by things like greener chemistry, process intensification, and things like that. So we have open project calls to have members submit projects like the one you might be describing. The other place we can find projects, and Laura referenced government agency directed projects. So if there is a way for us to connect, in this case, a Department of Defense or other government funding need with funding opportunities, we can do that match make and find ways to fund projects to develop things from biotechnology that advance bioindustrial manufacturing, again, to ultimately supply both governmental and DoD needs, but commercial needs in the US as well. So, an example that is public so we can talk about, because we do highly value our members' proprietary information, is natural rubber comes from rubber trees in Malaysia and Southeast Asia exclusively, right? We've never been able to grow those domestically. We have projects working towards growing plants as crops in the US that would allow the production of natural rubber domestically, right? Which is, again, a need in terms of onshoring, securing supply chains, and providing for a domestic source of products. And that's one which can go both ways. It might be something that a member has an idea and can provide forward through a project call. We've also found needs that allow us to fund projects and find the members to support those. And so it's an example of a project that can fund through either mechanism. And so again, as Laura had suggested, right, if you have thoughts, we'd love to connect with you and talk about how your technology might fit in and how we might be able to support funding it and what makes sense.
Great, thank you. All right, let's see. So if there was an interest in a local education program, say for middle school awareness or local academy that you were describing, Louise, in one of those slides, how would that work? Like there's funding for those types of programs where members can access that through a competitive application, or how does that work?
Yeah, so similar to what David was talking about, we send out these project calls, we give parameters. We definitely are on topic as far as what we'd like to see, what we're interested in, and it is a competitive process. Thus far, we have engaged with high school programs and programming, not really down into middle school yet, although maybe something's coming up in Minnesota here soon. But definitely we want to hear from folks. What's nice about membership is you also have, again, access to the entire membership, so you can partner with local industry. And we definitely want to see that kind of collaboration. We definitely want to stand up these education and training programs with a future in mind for the participants. We want students to continue into good paying careers, and definitely by working with local industry, local companies, that helps support that effort.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, let me see here. I guess a question more for Laura. The infrastructure program, is that, what type of infrastructure facilities are you looking to stand up, and are they, product specific, or what kind of capacities are you looking to scale up there?
So thank you. So when I shared the slide talking about the diversified and distributed network, that's really the model. And so we are looking to get input from the broader industry on what are those capabilities that are needed now. Generally, pilot scale can be in the range of 5,000 to 70,000 liter, depending on the type of product you're manufacturing. And we know that there are certain feedstocks that many companies in this industry are utilizing as part of their manufacturing process. We also know that there are different types of technologies. There can be traditional fermentation in those large stainless steel tanks. There can be gas-based fermentation, solid state. And so we are looking at where are the greatest needs as we think about this multi-year effort. So getting input from industry, market analysis to help guide those decisions, and making decisions that really fit that point of need for the early facilities, and thinking as we build out additional facilities of the 12 to 15 in the network, how we diversify and focus on perhaps it is a newer feedstock that is more focused on technology innovation for different uses of that feedstock than the more traditional feedstocks that exist like corn dextrose.
Okay. Great. I think Todd had a question, but I don't see it typed in here. I don't know if we can unmute at this point with the settings for the webinar, but let's see if Todd is asking it. Let me see here. I don't see it coming through. If anybody else has any other questions, could you please put them in the Q&A. We're taking those questions now. Okay, Veronica. Will the facility only prioritize supporting members pilot, or is it open to anyone?
So I will say at this stage in our planning, we are, in state of Minnesota, we're in the process of site selection. For the other 6 states we've announced we're doing further due diligence and review as potential locations for sites. So we have not gone into the process of identifying the use criteria for this facility quite yet at this stage. But I will say, as a member-driven organization, making sure that we connect our members to benefits and return that value for their investments in our mission will be important to us as we think about the facilities.
Great, thank you. All right, I think that's all the questions that were in the Q&A. Let me see if there's any more in the chat. No. All right, this is last chance to ask a question. If anybody has anything for the panelists, for BioMADE folks, please type it in the Q&A. If not, we could end a little early. Oh, wait. Here we go. Todd. Okay, we are in a work group with the Department of Energy, MESC, non-electrolysis, clean energy production work group. Our waste to clean energy technology can remediate many wastes. How can we connect immediately?
So I will say, reaching out to membership at biomade.org, just to connect into the right individuals to schedule a follow-up call with would be my suggestion. And then David, I don't know if you want to comment upon some of the way members engage with our technical program.
Yeah, and I'll second what Laura said. A typical process would be, we'll get on a call, we'll try and understand more about what you're doing, what your needs are, make sure that this is a fit for you, Todd, as a company and your company and needs, talk about how we might, engage with you, have you engage with BioMADE and look for opportunities, and then move forward, right? And as Laura was saying, this is a fabulous time actually to join BioMADE, because we do have time to get you in and get you to the member meeting. And then over course of a couple of days, you'd have tremendous opportunity to connect with other members, with government partners, with BioMADE itself, and continue to try and forge connections and look for opportunities to build relationships, partnerships, and funding opportunities going forward.
Thank you. That was good. Thank you. Okay, another question here. Any plans to expand into Pennsylvania with your programs? The Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture would seem like a good fit, as well as the Department of Community and Economic Development.
Great question. So our focus as an organization is really nationwide. And so we do focus on building out an ecosystem across the United States, but especially as we think of our potential infrastructure sites, what are those regional opportunities and who are the partners that can be brought together? And of course, economic development associations and agriculture associations and departments of ag are an important part of that. And so what I would say in regard to the state of Pennsylvania in particular is we're always happy to have a meeting with organizations that are interested in learning more about BioMADE, whether or not they want to pursue membership or just learn more about our programs. So if there's any individual that wants to reach out, I'm happy to schedule a follow-up meeting. But what I would say about the state of Pennsylvania and in regards to our infrastructure network is that it is a multi-year effort. And so while we have announced those 6 states for further due diligence at this stage in the process, there will be opportunities in the future for other states to be considered.
Well, that's great to know.
Can I
Yeah.
build on that too? And aside from infrastructure, I'm not sure if this question went to that. But as I said, as Laura said, in most of our projects and funding, it's a match process. So we bring some government supported funds, but needs to match something. It can't be other federal government funds, but it certainly can be other state funds. It can be private funds. So groups like Community and Economic Development or the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture make perfect fund match opportunities to support BioMADE projects, or you can think about it the other way, right? We can support projects supported by them and match their funding in cases, right? Assuming that the right fit is made on a project. So that's on a more project specific basis as opposed to an infrastructure basis.
Okay, great. We have one more question, then I have one left for myself. The one here in the chat, can you share the criteria you use to evaluate the sites, I guess the states that you, how you reached your decision for those states as being the focus of this infrastructure program?
So our infrastructure team had received 50 statements of interest. This call for statements of interest was put out to the broader community. So there wasn't a membership requirement to submit a statement, and evaluated that process. So unfortunately, they are not on the call today, but what I will say is that they received a lot of responses from companies of all sizes, from different parts of the country as part of that process.
Okay. All right, well, hopefully Pennsylvania can get in the loop on the next round. The question that I think some on the call might be wondering, especially if they're faculty or say affiliated with our network of, you know, commercialization, entrepreneurship organizations, is either within Penn State, like I said, or affiliated with some of these, you know, like community and economic development programs. So we already, like at Penn State, we already have a pretty robust you know, statewide network of organizations that are designed to help startups you know, launch, and also say within the university, you know, tech transfer offices and so forth. How do you interact as a manufacturing institute, you know, with institutions that have those types of resources already, you know, and the faculty that are doing work in this field?
So I'll take a crack at it. That was in a way a complicated question. So if I don't quite address it all, please let me know and I'll see what I can do. Right, and as Laura said, a lot of our, not a lot, a percentage of our membership are R1, R2 universities, along with community colleges and schools. Some of our best projects, and we encourage this on most projects actually, is partnership in collaboration between industry and academia. And we see some of our strongest technology developments come out of those pieces of work. And so part of the role, both with the member meeting, the member portal, webinars, and other events we create, are getting people who have complementary capabilities and technologies together, right? If you're a startup company, you might need analytical capabilities or research. If you're a university, you may be looking for somebody to start taking it that next step in terms of commercialization, or a partner who might be able to do some downstream processing on an early type process or fermentation or a new microbe you've created or found. And so we do try and create networks both with universities, but also, as I said, we know there are organizations out there that are local or state that create funding and support opportunities. They're probably not appropriate for membership in BioMADE, but if we can connect with them where there are synergies and overlaps, where a company might be a member or participate in both, you know, that's really a sweet spot for us and for what we hope is the company. And it allows us to really magnify the impact, the dollars that come from other funding sources as well as our dollars, and get the greatest impact for the whole ecosystem. If I missed parts, please let me know. I was trying to broadly answer the whole question. Okay.
That's good. All right. I think that's all the questions. I think they've all been answered. Yeah. So, well, I guess with that, I guess I could just say thank you to everybody for your time. I really appreciate the presentation, the time that you put into it, all the good work that you're doing. I think it's good to build this ecosystem, spread the word, and get more and more people, you know, knowledgeable about these resources and the growth trajectory, I think, of this type of industry. So with that, I'll end. Oh, I'm sorry. There's two more questions that we have. Just
That's great.
do you support or facilitate technology transfers? I think well, yeah, that's one last question.
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, in the sense that that's a very, could be you
Very
may
broad.
mean very broad things, but I'll give it a quick shot. So, right, again, we try and find partners. Again, that can be somebody who's working on a fermentation to create, maybe it's a replacement for something out of the petroleum stream, with people who might be able to do downstream processing to refine and purify, all the way even to manufacturers who might use that product and validate its use in a finished good. We certainly work with government agencies. The government is not always the best customer in the world, but they can do a lot of work on companies' behalfs to validate technologies in use systems, and can support that way. So we work on combining those and working to both technology transfer, find transition opportunities is another language we use for members, both commercially and through government partners to validate technologies. We don't necessarily, as I said, support all the way through full commercialization, but to that commercialization readiness piece. And part of that is, I'm imagining what you're describing as technology transfer or transition and validation in use case.
Yeah, from the university, yeah.
Correct. Well, or
Okay.
small companies as well, right? So if that, Christopher, if that didn't answer the question, throw it out there again and I'll try again, but hopefully that addressed it.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, thank you. Try closing again. I think that's it now. Thank you very much. Enjoy this beautiful, at least here in Pennsylvania, the weather is gorgeous. I don't know, California, maybe it's nice there too, but thank you very, very much. And please reach out. Anybody is still on the webinar, any questions, please send them to me or to BioMADE. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.